Jai Hind everyone. My name is Pooja Pandey, Assistant Professor in the MCA Department in Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. And today I'm going to deliver my lecture on the CPU scheduling. And it's an important topic in the operating system, you can see, because we use in many criteria that which how the process should be taken and how the memory is allocated. So we always take the in consideration about the CPU scheduling, right? So uh, before starting the CPU scheduling, we should know that what do you mean by the CPU scheduling. Actually, it is a process by used by the operating system to decide which task or the process should get or should use the CPU at the particular time. See, we normally we know that CPU is there, we allocate the memory, but the process always use the CPU. So there are many processes. So now we have to decide that which process should use the CPU at which time. So that is mainly decided by our the process that is your CPU, that is your CPU scheduling, and this is the CPU scheduling. So we can say that CPU scheduling is a process by used by the operating system to decide which task or processor gets the use of the CPU at a particular time. Because, and it is very important because we can understand that CPU cannot handle the multiple tasks. It can, sorry, it can handle only one task at a time. So it is very important to decide that which process or which because certain process has got the priority, so we have to decide that which process should use CPU at the first. So basis on the different scheduling algorithm, we decide that which process should use CPU. Now the following you can say these following are the purpose of the scheduling process. Why we use the scheduling time, or why we are using the CPU scheduling? Because of this two reason, if you say. The first one is to maximize the CPU utilization, because if we allocate each and every time to certain processes, that process will only use at that time only. So the proper utilization of the CPU is there, right? Now, second part is to minimize the response and the waiting time of the process. Because if we are allocating the time slot to a particular process, that process has to wait for a certain time only. It doesn't mean that every process there is a fight between the process that okay, I will utilize or I will utilize. So this is the basic thing that why we use the CPU scheduling. Now again, these are the some points that why you have understood that what you mean by the CPU scheduling. Now this is the main points, 6 points are there, that what is the need of the CPU scheduling algorithm. First one, we have discussed that to maximize the CPU utilization. See, the main consideration when we are working on the any process or any CPU, the right thing is that our CPU should be busy maximum. So it could be maximum why when we are allocating the proper time to the each process, so that CPU can be that process can switch from one process to the another, and they can utilize maximum CPU utilization is there. So to maximize the CPU utilization, there is it is an important part that why we need the CPU scheduling algorithm. Then first, to minimize the waiting time, it reduces the total time of a process spent waiting in the ready queue. For example, two processes are there, 4 5 processes are there. If we have allocated equal time, that after each 1 second or after 2 seconds each process should get the size, so there will be a minimum time waiting time of the process, right? Now to minimize the response time, that how much time they need for the interactive, right? So because user needs to expect the quick feedback, so that we will get when we are minimizing the response time. Each process is getting the equal time, so each process is getting the equal time, they are getting the response, or user is getting the quick feedback for that. Now fourth is to maximize the throughput, the number of process completed per unit time. So as the throughput is maximized, the throughput is increases, our CPU is utilized more. So we always keep in mind when we are using the CPU scheduling algorithm that we should maximize the throughput. Now, fifth one is to ensure the fairness, because each process is getting a fair chance of CPU time, because we have allocated a equal time slot in the CPU. So for the CPU utilization, then only we so it will avoid the starvation. And what do you mean by the starvation? Starvation is a process when when a process which has got the priority, it is always the same process is using this, you can say the using the CPU, while the process which has got the lower priority, they are not utilizing the CPU properly. So the lower priority processes are waiting for a long time. It means that they are starving. So to avoid the starvation, what we are doing with the help of the CPU scheduling algorithms, we are giving the fair chance to each process so that they can equally use the CPU time. Then sixth one is your to improve the system performance matrix. It means that matrix means that there are certain things we use at turnaround time, waiting time, response time. So they will improve the system performance. So by this, we have understood that what is the need of the CPU scheduling algorithm. The first one is to maximize the CPU utilization. Second is you to minimize the waiting time. And third is to minimize the response time. Fourth is to maximize the throughput, ensure the fairness, and to improve the performance, system performance metrics. So these are the need for the CPU scheduling algorithms. Now, in simple term, when we are not using the CPU scheduling, what our system may be done, because the system remain may idle when it would be working, and some process may get delayed unnecessarily, or some process may not get never get executed, if that is in the starvation. So overall system, because of these three reasons, our overall system responsiveness would be suffering. So that's why without CPU scheduling, we can understand all these three factors are there and our system is suffered. So CPU scheduling algorithm basically decide that which process run next, right? The first thing is that the CPU scheduling algorithm decide which process run next. Second, for how long, and third, in what order. So these three are the basic things that how the CPU scheduling algorithm decide, that is which process run next, for how long, and in what order. Now, when we are working on the CPU scheduling algorithms or CPU scheduling, there are certain terminologies or certain things that we should keep in our mind that we are going to discuss. The first one is arrival time. What do you mean by the arrival time? Arrival time means that the time at which the process are in the ready queue. For example, 0, 1, 2, 3. It will be given in the table form. So what do you mean by the arrival time? The time at which the process arrives in the ready queue. Then the second point, what we always keep in our mind is completion time. The time at which the process completes its execution, right? Now the burst time, time required by a process for CPU execution, means burst time, that is how much the process has required a time for its CPU execution. It is considered as a burst time. Then what will be the turnaround time? When we are working on the turnaround time, then difference between the completion time and the arrival time will be termed as your turnaround time. So this formula we have to keep in mind when we are solving the numericals, right? So turnaround time is difference between the completion time and the arrival time. What is the arrival time? The process at which it is starting. Completion at which the process is ending. So we can find out the turnaround time. Now what will be the waiting time? Waiting time will be the time difference between the turnaround time and the burst time. What is burst time? Time required by the process for the CPU execution. So turnaround time minus burst time, we will get the waiting time, right? So these, you can say these 5 things we have to keep in mind when we are working on the CPU scheduling. Now, things to be care when we are designing they are the some you can say the CPU scheduling criteria. When we work on the CPU scheduling, that on this it is based, or we have to take care while we are designing the CPU scheduling algorithm. The first one is your CPU utilization. We know that it should be maximum, but what is the use of the main purpose of the CPU algorithm? What is the main purpose of the CPU algorithm? The main purpose of the CPU algorithm is to keep the CPU as busy as possible, right? So theoretically, if we are seeing that the CPU usage can range from 0 to 100, but in real time it varies from 40 to 90% depending upon the system load. So it should be maximum utilized. So we have to keep in mind that how our CPU is utilization, right? We want that type of algorithm that our CPU is maximum, it is busy. So we have to keep in mind for the CPU utilization when we are designing a CPU scheduling algorithm. Now throughput is that then the average CPU performance is the number of process performed and completed during each time. So this is called the throughput. Now it depends upon the now the output is you can say the output is varying depending upon the how much duration a individual process had taken a time, right? So first we have to keep in mind that what is a throughput. Throughput is the average CPU performance, is the number of the process performed and completed during each. Its performance is also calculated and its completion is also included. So both the things equally is called the throughput. Now output may vary depending upon the length or the duration of the process, how much time or how much duration an individual process has taken. Now when we are working on the turnaround time, we know that what do you mean by the turnaround time? It means difference between your completion time and the arrival time is known as the turnaround time. So what do you mean by the completion time, right? For particular process, the important conditions are how long it takes to perform the process. Now the time elapsed from the time of process delivery to the time of completion. It means that time of process delivery to the time of completion is known as the conversion time. And now this conversion, what is a conversion time? It is a time spent waiting for the memory access, waiting in line using CPU and waiting for the input output. In a simple language, we can say that difference between the completion time and the arrival time is known as the turnaround time. That will be a very helpful for keeping in our mind that difference between the completion time and the arrival time is known as a turnaround time. Now the fourth thing is your waiting time. See, the scheduling algorithms does not affect the time required to complete the process once it is start performing. It only affects where the waiting time of the process is more. That is spend the time in waiting process in the ready queue. So it will affect our performance of the CPU, right? And that we have to keep that waiting time should not be more. So when we are designing a CPU scheduling algorithm, we should keep in mind that none of the process should take a more waiting time because it will affect the performance of the CPU. Right. Now, the response time. In collaborative system, if you say that the turnaround time is not the best option because the process may produce something early, sometimes they produce some early and continue to computing the new result while the previous result are released to the user. Therefore, another time is taken in the submission of the application process until the first response is issued, and this means that response time. If I say the main thing what we have to keep in mind that when sometime when a process is utilizing the CPU, sometime it produce the result very early, and after producing the result early at a specific time, it doesn't switch to the another process. It continue to compute the new result. But what the user is getting the early result. They are not getting the after result. After the second result, they are not getting. So there is a problem. So to avoid that problem, we are using the another method, that is a response time, in which the time taken in the submission of the application process until the first response is issued, and this measure is called the response time. So these 5 things we have to keep in mind when we are designing the CPU algorithm, that what should be the main criteria. So these are the main criteria for designing. The first one is your turnaround time, waiting time, response time, CPU utilization, if you say. Okay, so these are the basic points we have to keep in mind when we are using or when we are designing the CPU algorithms. Now, see, there are different types of the CPU scheduling algorithm. Basically, the CPU scheduling algorithm is divided into the 2 parts. That is your, if you say, that is your primitive, right? And second is your non-primitive, right? If you say that for the primitive scheduling, it means that CPU always, if you say that the CPU can be interrupted before it finishes. If it means that if I am doing a process, if I am doing a work, consider me as a process, right? So as a process, I am doing my work, and if another process is coming and he needs quickly, his arrival time has been like my arrival time is 0 and the next one is 1, my waiting time, and I am just processing. But after 1 second or 1 minute, another process is coming. So what will we do? It will immediately switch to the other process, right? So that will be called as your primitive. In short, we can say that a running process can be interrupted before it is finished. It doesn't mean in the primitive scheduling that we are completing the whole task until and unless next process is not disturbing. No. Another process can come before if he needs in the priority basis. So the current process will be interrupted, right? So we say that a CPU switches to the different process. And in the primitive scheduling, if you see, these are the algorithms where we are keeping in the point. That is, first one is your round robin, second is your shortest remaining time first, SRTF, right? And the third is your primitive priority scheduling. So in primitive scheduling, you can say that CPU can take away the process it's currently running and give the CPU to the another process. So normally, in short, we have to keep in mind that a running process can be interrupted before it finishes. It means that process can switch, the CPU can switch to the different process, right? Now, the second one is your non-primitive scheduling. As it is clear, if we are clear about the primitive part, then non-primitive is a very simple. Once a process is started running on the CPU, it keeps the CPU until it finishes, right? It will not give the CPU will not switch to the another process in the non-primitive until and unless a process has completed its work. So you can say that even it is more important, even it is arrived earlier, that second process has to wait for the first process. Clear? So that will be the non-primitive scheduling. And there are basically, these are the non-primitive scheduling. That is your FCFS, first come first serve, non-primitive priority scheduling, and shortest job first in the non-primitive. That you have to you say that you have to, these are the things which are coming in the non-primitive scheduling. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of the CPU scheduling algorithm? Advantages are that they are easy to implement and no hover or the switching between the process for the non-primitive. And for the non-primitive is that it is not suitable for the interactive or the real-time system because of these. And second is longer waiting time for the urgent or the short process. And third is can use starvation for short or the higher priority jobs, right? And these are used why? Because you say that in the non-primitive the CPU is not switched to the other process. So if the process has got the higher priority, that have to wait until and unless previous process has completed its task. So that for the urgent process or for the shorter process, this is a disadvantage, right? Now, you can say the next what we are going to discuss is the FCFS. That is your first come first serve scheduling algorithm. As the name suggests, I am taking it very in a simple language, that as the process is coming in a simple way, that process is, for example, if P1 is taken the 2 second, if P2 has taken the 5, if P3, so this until the process has completed the slot 2, right? After completing 2, it will come to the 5. If it is 2, then if after this all the process has been completed, then only this the process will jump to the third process, and whatever the things are there in the FCFS means that it is first come first serve, right? Now, how does the FCFS work? You see, FCFS working is very straightforward. The first one is your arrival. Process enter the system and placed in the queue in order to they are arrive. So they work the process how they are arriving in the sequence, and it is always working on the sequence form. Execution, the CPU takes the first process from the front of the queue, execute it until it is completed, and then remove it from the queue, right? And repeat, the system takes the next process in the queue and repeat the execution process. It means that until the process has completed its complete task, it is not switching to the another task. So that is a first come first serve, and it always happen at what sequence they are coming, and this will continue until that no more processes are left in the queue. Now, examples of the scheduling to understand the first come first serve scheduling algorithm effectively, we will use the two example. First one is when all the process arrive at the same time. Second, another where process arrive at the different side. So we will create the Gantt chart for both the scenarios and calculate the turnaround time and waiting time for the each process. So this for the process with the same arrival time, we have taken this. You can take this as a following table, which has got the arrival time and the burst time. See, if you see that arrival time has got the 0 and the burst time are different. But in the FCFS, for when the same time, it will happen in the same way. First, the P1 will complete it, then P2 and then P3. And if we are creating the Gantt chart here, it will start from 0 to 5, right? Then 5 to 3 plus 8, and 8 plus 8, it will be 16. And the process will be P1, P2 and you can say P3, right? This will, like this, we will create the Gantt chart. So if you see that the Gantt chart what I have created, this is your arrival time at T0, right? All the arrival times are the same. So what first the process will run from 0 to 5, right? 0 to 5. So we have taken after it is completed 5 ms, then it will go to the switch to the CPU will switch to the next process, that is P2. And after P2 has completed the 3, so 5 plus 3 you see here, that is it is 8, right? And after 8, if you see that in step 4, what will be there, the P3, when it will switch as soon as the 3 has completed, its burst time is completed, it will switch to the third process, and this 8 time. Now 8 plus 8, what will be the 16 time? So 16 will be the completion time will be your 16, right? So we can find out the arrival time like this. If when we are calculating the arrival time, or you can say turnaround time and the waiting time, we know the formula that turnaround time means completion time minus arrival time, right? So when we are calculating all these things, average, when we are finding out the average turnaround time, what will we do? We will calculate all this and divide it by the 3, then we will find out the average turnaround time. Then for finding out the waiting time, we will take this, add all these things, divided by, we will take the average of all these, and we will find out that this will be the answer of the when the processes are the same. But when the process have got the different arrival time, what will be the scenario? If you say, I have taken the next example here. If you see that arrival time is different, right? So we will work according to the arrival time. So this here we will take it as P1 will be, P1 is 2 second, and P2. So what we have taken, if you see that, we will take it if when we are creating the Gantt chart of this, what we will do, we will take it as the P2. The first we will take the P2. Here it will come the P2 because its arrival time is 0. It will do the 3. Right? And after we see that the arrival time has been 2. So after 2, it will switch to the process P1. So here it will be P1 and here it will be, if you say that 3 and 3 plus 5, it will be 8, right? So this is P1 and after P1 we will see the arrival time is 4 ms. So we will come here P3, right? And 8 plus 4 will be 12. So this will be our Gantt chart, right? So if you see that the final output is 12, what I have earlier mentioned here, it is 12. So similar thing is there. So when we are working, how the process is arriving, what will be the arrival time, we will take that process at the first. But when the arrival time is same, we will start from the starting point only. So this is the way we are finding out. And again, the finding out the turnaround time and waiting time will be seeing what we have taken. The turnaround time, we know that the this completion time minus the arrival time, right? So we have written here, and waiting time will be turnaround time minus the burst time, and in the table the arrival time and the burst time is given. So we have calculated this, and for finding out the average, what will we do? We will sum this and we will take the average. Again, we will cumulative, we will take the sum and we will calculate the average waiting time. So this is how we are calculating the FCFS with both the way. How you can say when the CPU, when the arrival time is same and when the arrival time is different. So we are working according to what the arrival time is there. But remember that in the FCFS, the process, when the process is working on the certain, until and unless its burst time is completed, it is not switching to the another. That is not in the case of the FCFS, that we have to keep in mind, right? So what are the advantages of the FCFS? See, FCFS is the basic form of the CPU scheduling algorithm, and if you see its advantage, the first one is that it is easy to implement. It does not require any complex data structure, and third thing is that it always follow the sequence. If you say it is always executed how in the order how they arrive. So there is a no risk of you say that starvation. Each process is executing according to its time slotted. And this FCFS, we have studied the types of the operating system. So it is always you can say it is always best for the batch system, where the longer time process for each process are often acceptable. So when we are working on the batch system, we are using the FCFS. And in FCFS, mainly it executes according to its arrival time. So it is ensuring that no process is getting the priority over the another. But there is a disadvantages also. In the non-primitive CPU scheduling algorithm, if you say, the FCFS has the longest waiting time. So because of the longest waiting time, or you can say the waiting time, when a process or when the CPU, when a process is waiting for the longest period time, it is not considered good for the our CPU utilization. Disadvantage of the FCFS is that the waiting time is very high. So we never use in a process. We always work on the round robin, you can say, or because in the round robin, we provide a time slice so that every process got the equal time. In FCFS, the process is not getting the equal time. Some process may take the 10 seconds, some process may take the less time. So they have to wait according to that. And this waiting, when the waiting time is more, it is not considered for the working for the utilization of the CPU. So we never use in a process. It is not suitable for you can say the time sharing operating system, when each process should get the same amount of CPU time or the real time operating system. So we never use the FCFS in the time sharing or the real time, because it has the highest waiting time. So thank you all. With all this, hope you all have understand, and we will meet as soon as possible as early. Okay, thank you.